Perfect. Okay. Oh, I've shared that. That's perfect. Okay. So here we are. We're looking at a few little essays.
Hi guys, I'm Michael, and this is Phil from the IELTS Grind.
Yeah.
And sorry, we're just doing a little bit of technical stuff as we find the right stream.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at a few essays today. So what we're going to do is mark 3 people's essays, and today they're all going to be task 2, and you're going to see our suggestions on what was good about the essay, what could be improved, and if there were any big errors really. So you can have a look in the description of this video. It will take you over to a Google Doc, and you can see what we're seeing here.
Yes.
Okay.
For today, Phil will be taking the lead on going through these essays, and I will be on community outreach. Yeah. So if you have any questions at all, you can come over into the comments and ask them, and when Phil's taking a break between them, I'll shoot them over and Phil can talk about them. Also, at the end of the stream will be a more formal Q&A where we can answer any questions that you guys have. Also, remember, we have a Discord where we jump on periodically, and you can come over and say hi, join our community, and we'll help you out with your IELTS journey.
Yeah, there's lots of information in the description of this video, and you can go over and find all that. Yeah. Okay. So just let us know if the volume's okay, and comments, all those kind of things. Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, bye, Phil.
Okay, see you later. We're going to have some fun now. Okay, so we're looking at this first essay. So this is by a student who's called Mahira, and the actual question is this: it is important for children to learn the difference between right and wrong at an early age. Punishment is necessary to help you learn this distinction. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? Okay. So hopefully by now in your IELTS study, you know that there are 3 main groups of essays. Opinion essays, where you're just writing about what you think about the topic. There's discussion essays, where you're looking at both sides to an argument and then giving your own opinion. And the third group, which covers many things, including problem solution essays, advantages, disadvantages, and so on. So which one is this? Well, it's clearly an opinion essay. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? And what we need to do is to build up our own thesis of opinion and build an answer. So let's start off by looking at the introduction. You can see this in the Google Doc. There's a link to that in the description. You should be able to view this. If there's any issues, leave a comment and we'll get that fixed for you. Okay, so it begins with: there is no doubt that it is vitally urgent to learn between right and wrong to children as part of their basic education.
Phil, just for 1 second, can you double check the audio?
Yeah, so
that you have the right one? Because I can hear you, but you're quite distant.
So I'll tell you what, let's one go.
Phil, just for 1 second. Here, I'm just going to give you my mic again. My mic's fine.
Okay, so we've got more audio problems. So I'll just swap over mics. Oh, this is one. It's because it's on mute. Let's test that. How is that now?
Let me try. You have the right
one. I turned my mic onto mute again. I'm not very good with the technology, and it happens quite a lot.
Okay, you're good now.
Okay, guys, we're back to it.
How about you start over from the top?
Yeah, okay, so we go back and we have a look. So we're looking at this essay, which is by a student
And the essay question is, it is important for children to learn the difference between right and wrong at an early age. Punishment is necessary to help them learn this distinction. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? So as we mentioned before, there are 3 different types of essays in IELTS Class 2. This is an opinion essay or a thesis-led essay. So you got the volume? Okay, so let's look at the introduction to this. So there is no doubt that it is vitally urgent to learn between right and wrong for children as part of their basic education. During this process, punishment may play a role to navigate them in a proper way. I, however, partially agree with this notion. Young children should be rewarded for their positive initiatives, but they should be punished sometimes for misbehavior. As part of this, detention may play a role. Okay, so what was good here? What could be improved? So if you look at this document, where you can find the link to that in the description, you'll notice that it's color-coded. So for things in green, those are things that we think are good phrases, that they are just excellent additions to the essay. Things in orange are okay, but they could be improved. Things in red, these are just errors, grammatical errors and things like that. And things in purple, they're actually kind of illogical. They don't really fit to the argument. So in the first line here, we've got a few things highlighted in orange. So it is vitally urgent. For me personally, I don't think this is really a good collocation or even a good phrase for this particular essay. If you look at the bottom of the document or below this, if I just show you very quickly, you can see we've got some notes, some suggestions for this writer, and we'll be sending this to the person so they can watch the video. But you can see that I've got a model answer based on what they wrote with a few improvements. So you can always compare what we're talking about to the model answer. So for me here, I wouldn't say vitally urgent, because urgency is we've got to do it quickly. This is more something very important. So I chose the word essential. I think it fits better here. To learn between right and wrong, there's nothing incorrect about this in terms of grammar or vocabulary. It's just, if we look at the question, we've got exactly the same kind of phrase. So we just need to change it to something else. Again, if you look at my model answer, I changed right and wrong to learn morality. So morality is knowing the difference between right and wrong. So as you can see, there's nothing wrong with what the writer wrote, but it could have been improved. If we look at the rest of the introduction, punishment may play a role to navigate them in a proper way. It's not really what we would say. Navigate them in the right direction, or I think as I wrote, navigate them onto the proper course of action. Course of action would be a better phrase. And if we look at the thesis statement here, it says, I, however, partially agree with this notion, and I think it's missing a word. I think it should say, partially agree with this notion as young children should. So we're giving a reason for agreeing here. And then you can see in green, I really like the phrase may play a role. I think it's a really high level phrase. It's well used here. But the one thing I would say is detention. This really does only have a link with education. It's not the same as punishing kids at home. Parents don't put the kids into detention. You only do that at school. Okay, are we doing okay so far, Mike? Any questions that have come up?
Nope, you're good.
Okay.
Keep rolling.
So if you have any questions, if you're joining us on the live stream at any point, you can jump in and ask any question about anything about the IELTS. We're here to help you. And if you're watching this on the playback, leave us a comment. what would you like to see on future live streams? Because we can do anything you would like about the IELTS. Okay, so moving on to the body of the essay. So what we're doing in this type of essay is giving our own opinion. So the body paragraphs have to be about what we think. It's our own argument, and we're coming up with supporting details for that. So let's see what this writer has. It says, if youths are appreciated for their righteous deeds, they can easily be controlled over. Motivations can be verbal praises or small rewards like chocolates and ice creams, which can bring out the best qualities they can offer. Okay, so this is a typo, clearly an error. As most of them are resilient in nature, this amicable approach from parents can boost their enthusiasm towards study and moral responsibility. Okay, it goes on to say, moreover, if these qualities are inadvertently inserted into their nature at an yearly age, again I think it's just a spelling sake, early age, it would ultimately be prosperous for the nation. For example, Japanese citizens are considered to be one of the most cultured and well-mannered peoples in the world. This is because they were nurtured properly at their residence and institutions. Okay. So you can see in this paragraph, there's a lot of good things here. There's a few areas that we can improve. There are some clear errors. I think they're more typos than anything else. And there's a big chunk of purple, which means something is not quite logical. So let's go through it line by line. So in the first line, I love the phrase appreciated for something. This is a really good phrase to use here. The next phrase, righteous deeds, if we look in my model answer, we'll see how I've changed this a little bit, but more on that in a moment. Then it talks about be controlled over. It's not really the way that a native would say it, be controlled over. We might just say be controlled. If we just refer to the model answer, there's an important thing I think we need to see. So what I've changed here is it says the main reason I think this is because when youths are rewarded for their good deeds, they can be more easily influenced and thus controlled. So what I changed was, we got the sprinklers going to water all the flowers here. Okay, so I'll try and talk a little bit louder until the sprinklers stop. So I included that phrase, the main reason I think this is because when you're writing an opinion essay, you must make it clear that you are talking about your opinion. Using phrases like the reason I think this is because, or the main reason, this makes it clear to the examiner that it's your opinion and not someone else's. The main thing I changed here is youths are rewarded for their good deeds. Now, if we look back at what the writer wrote, they said righteous deeds. And to be honest, righteous is a higher level word than good. The problem is, it's more than is necessary. Good deeds is a better phrase. It may seem simpler, but it fits better. So the issue we have with some students is they try and use fancy vocabulary when it's not necessary. So that's why I just said good deeds. I think it makes more sense. And as I said, be controlled over, I just changed that to can be more easily influenced and thus controlled. This is possibly a better way of saying it. Okay, moving on. So I did like the phrase verbal praises, but I would certainly say verbal praise because we don't really say praises as a sort of, it doesn't make sense here unless it's being used as a verb. And then it says which can bring out the best qualities they can offer. I don't think we need the partisans they can offer. It just brings out their best qualities. And again, you can look at my model answer to see exactly how I changed this. Moving on, I did like the phrase resilient in nature. I think this is a good phrase, but it doesn't really make sense with what comes next. So resilient in nature, this amicable approach from parents can boost their enthusiasm towards study and moral responsibility. To be resilient doesn't really match with what's said next. To be resilient means that when you have trouble in your life or obstacles, you overcome them. If you're knocked down, you get back up again. It doesn't really make sense with what the writer put. So I suggested something else, which was this. So as most of them are reward driven in nature, this amicable approach from parents. So this is saying that because the children, they like to get presents and rewards, this would make them more likely to listen to their parents who are doing a friendly thing. It makes a lot more sense now. Okay, then the next sentence, which begins with moreover. Moreover, if these qualities are inadvertently inserted, again, it's in purple because it's illogical. Inadvertently means we didn't mean to do it. It was an error or a mistake or a happy accident. What we're talking about here is parents actively doing this. They want to change their children's nature. So it doesn't make sense here. So I changed it to actively, I think you'll find in the model. Again, the part in red, yearly age, I think this is just a typo. It should be early age. And then the next part in green, the most cultured and well-mannered peoples in the world. I thought this was a nice phrase. And the last part, it says, this is because they were nurtured properly at their residence and institutions. I see what the writer is saying here, but I think we could phrase it a little bit differently. So I changed it to, so for example, Japanese citizens are considered to be one of the most cultured and well-mannered peoples in the world. This is because they were nurtured properly at, so both in the home and in social institutions. That's actually a little typo in myself there, so I can change that for later on. But you can see that I changed it both in the home and in social institutions. It says the same thing, and it's just a little bit more natural for a native speaker. Okay, so that's the end of paragraph 1 in the body for this essay. How are you doing over there, Mike?
Keep rolling.
You're relaxing, having fun?
I am. This is a very comfortable couch.
Okay. So let's have a look at the next paragraph here. So it says, there are some cases where punishments become inevitable as some children are so motivated by lousy companions and their proposals. In these cases, striking them could come out with some appalling repercussions. Rather than this, they can be punished tactfully, like they should not be allowed to read their favourite comics or preventing them from watching cartoons for a day. These will have immediate impacts on changing their perceptions, yet they will learn the lesson. To relate, eminent people at their early days also faced several detention for mishandling their deals. However, they had come round and became super successful as the day passed by. Okay, so let's go through that bit by bit. So as you should know by now, the things highlighted in orange are just not the right vocabulary, or they could use a little bit of improvement, but I still understand what you're saying. The things in green, excellent, really good use of vocabulary and grammar, and the things in red are just kind of mistakes, grammatical or vocabulary mistakes, and the things that we've highlighted in purple are just a little bit illogical. They don't really fit with what's being said. So lousy companions. Yeah, I understand what they mean, but it's not a great turn of phrase here. So if we check the model answer, this has been changed to misled by mischievous peers. Yeah. So a peer, someone within your social age group. Mischievous is better than lousy because it kind of gets this idea of misbehaving, and misled rather than and their proposals. It's just a better way of phrasing this. I love the collocation appalling repercussions, really, really good. If you don't know what repercussions are, you can check that out, check out the meaning, but it's kind of the knock-on effects of something. And the next part here, so they can be punished tactfully like they should. It's not a good way to introduce an example. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's a little bit low level, I would say. This could be improved if we look at the model by phrasing it like this. So they can be punished more tactfully, such as them not being allowed to do something. So such as works a little bit better here than the word like, although they mean the same thing. Okay, the next part that's been highlighted is these will have. But the thing is, although they've given us a list of different types of punishment, we're actually talking about the idea of punishment. So it would be better to say this will have an immediate impact. But I do like the fact that the writer's been referring back to what they've said. That's a really good skill. When we get to the next sentence, things just aren't really making a lot of sense here. So when we're talking about eminent people at their early days, we're talking about in their early days, in their youth, something like this. Where it says several detention, several, it means more than one, but detention is in the singular. We need an S. And mishandling their deals. It doesn't really make a lot of sense here because we're talking about them as children, and children don't really have deals. They're not business people. So let's have a look at what was written instead. If I just move down. So it says, to relate, many eminent people at an early age also face several punishments for inappropriate behavior. However, they have evolved and become wildly successful as adults. So here I've just changed things around. And another thing I didn't mention, super successful. It's a little bit informal. So I changed it to the collocation wildly successful, which is a little bit more appropriate here. Okay, so moving on to the last part of this essay, the conclusion. They say, in conclusion, always a good start. Youths need initiatives and proper guidelines from the progenitors. Can't even say that. Mike, how are we saying that?
Progenitors.
Yeah. I can't even pronounce that word myself. It's so high level. I have to admit, I actually had to look this one up. I was really impressed. Yeah. It's not one that I use every day of the week. And instructors. While rewards can play a role to keep them motivated, little punishments may be helpful time to time. Okay, so I think this is an okay conclusion grammatically and in terms of vocabulary, apart from the last little part where there's a bit of an error. But for the IELTS, I think I would change this a little bit. Just because we're missing a little part of what we need. So if you look at what I've got here. So in conclusion, I still believe that youths need initiatives and proper guidelines from their progenitors, thank you, and instructors, rather than solely severe punishment. While rewards can play a role to keep them motivated, appropriate punishment may be helpful from time to time. So the reason I changed this around is because, for one, you've got to make it clear in your conclusion that you're referring back to your original opinion that appears in the conclusion. You've got to make it clear that this is your opinion still. And this person's opinion was they partly agree. They think that for the most part, you've got to reward good behavior, and at the same time, punishment can sometimes be necessary. With their original conclusion, if we go back up, they didn't quite make this clear. So we just added a few little parts to make it very clear that they still have this opinion, the reasons why they had the opinion, and exactly what the opinion was. So you can have a look at this. You can see the comments that we gave the student below. You can have a look at the model answer there, and hopefully what you'll be doing is stealing the best sentences and adapting them for your own essays.
Okay.
And we'll be sending this off to the student who wrote this.
All right, guys, we are going to be taking a 5-minute break before we continue. We're going to be ending the stream, but we look forward to seeing you in a few minutes when we get back. See you soon.
Okay. If I can figure this out. Okay.